In this episode, I dive into energy vampires, what they are, how to spot one in your life, and what to do about it. I also go into how to identify if you are an energy vampire. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning into the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? Before we dive into today's topic, I want to remind you that I have an amazing membership. If you are ready to tap into abundance, unlock the abundance that's already around you, because we are abundant beings using the chakra system, and if you're ready to get out of overwhelm and stress and anxiety and really operate from a place of alignment, go to niajae.com/society. Again, that's niajae.com, niajae.com/society to find out more information about Abundant and Aligned Society. It is my membership. I'm sending you text messages, guided meditations, sound therapy recordings, and all these yummy things to really help you balance your chakras and maintain balance when life challenges you, because life does challenge you. So if you want more information, go to niajae.com/society. All right. Let's dive into today's topic. We are talking about energy vampires. What are they and what to do if you have one in your life? And I'm guessing everyone has at least one energy vampire in their life. And I just want to say, before we dive into all of the juiciness of this topic, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. We're all healing, we're all growing, we're all expanding. It's really just being aware of patterns, and the people who may be an energy vampire, being aware of it and doing the work so you're showing up in a positive way and not draining people's energy. So I just want to have that disclaimer. This is not a slap on the wrist. And I guess I just feel like, let me just say this up front, because I don't want people to think that I am attacking them or purposely trying to trigger someone, because that is not what it's about. This is about awareness. This is about awareness. We all have toxic patterns, and the more we're aware of them, the more we can choose to be conscious and be the best version of ourselves, releasing the old programming, releasing the toxic patterns, and showing up our very best, stepping into our power and sovereignty. All right, let's dive in. I have a lot of notes because this is a topic that I kept going. I kept doing more research, and there was so much that was coming up for me while I was writing out my notes for this episode. So an energy vampire is a person who gets increased energy around other people, but leaves other people feeling exhausted or drained of energy. Someone who zaps your energy intentionally or unintentionally, because some people don't know that they're energy vampires, and some people are not aware of their energy. And some people don't even believe that we exchange energy. So there's a lot of layers of it, but we're going to peel back some of these layers. So why is it important to identify energy vampires in your life? One, to preserve your energy. So there's a lot of things that impact our energy throughout the day. And one of the things that I like to do, especially with my membership, is help people start to take inventory of their energy. So checking in first thing in the morning, and I've shared this with you guys, check in first thing in the morning before you get on your phone, before you get on social media, before you check your emails. Check in with yourself. How am I feeling mentally, physically, and emotionally? And that will help you start to pay attention to your baseline resonance, your baseline energy, before the world starts to impact you, before your day gets exciting or draining or whatever the case may be. Really checking into how you're feeling. So preserving your energy, because if you're someone who, like me, I'm a go-getter. I'm trying to build an empire. I'm trying to do all the things. So I don't want someone draining my energy. I don't. I'm like, I have a podcast and I have businesses and I have goals and I have desires and I'm trying to like live my best life. I don't have time for people draining my energy. All right, guys, I'm going to try to stay focused. So another reason why you want to identify energy vampires in your life is to protect yourself from mental, emotional, and sometimes even physical distress. When you have someone draining your energy, it is going to cause you distress. And just like, people who are naggy, people who are always complaining, like that drains your energy and it impacts you. So you want to protect yourself from that. And then you also want to release what is no longer serving you, like toxic connections, to create space for empowering, supportive, nurturing connections. If you're spending all your time on a toxic connection, you're not really creating space for people to come into your life that are truly going to feed you life and support you and nurture you in a positive and empowering way. So releasing the things and the people that no longer serve you. Okay, so if you don't identify the energy vampires in your life, the continuous drain will affect your well-being. Over time, it could lead to stress, anxiety, or even depression. So we don't want that, right? So let's dive into the 10 ways. I have 10 ways, you guys. And when I tell you, I was writing pages and pages of notes, and I was telling my partner, I'm like, oh my goodness, this podcast episode is going to be long. I have so much to say on this topic, but let's dive in. So number one is they are codependent. They want your nonstop attention. These are people who don't really want you to spend time with others or feel some type of way if you spend time with others. So they want to monopolize your time so they can have as much of your energy as they can get. And they use codependent relationships and friendships to stay in a space of drama or emotional need rather than finding and cultivating healthy connections. Now, I think that codependency is really common and there's so many layers of it. So it's not black or white, it's not linear. This is something that will have different variations and different layers. But basically, someone who just is a little more clingy than they should be. Someone who wants to monopolize all of your time and they don't have a good understanding of boundaries, which we'll get to later, or they're not understanding if you're spending time with other people. So this could be in relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, this could be family. So I think that I'll just say relationship is just an umbrella. So when I say relationships, this will cover romantic, friendships, family, and business relationships, because you will have this in all of the categories. Number two is they make you feel bad or feel guilty for not spending time with them. You feel obligated to, and if you don't, you feel like a bad person. Usually they're manipulative, so they'll have you either feeling bad for them or have you feeling bad as an individual for not spending the time with them, because you start to feel like you're not giving them enough. Now, obviously, there's layers, because you do have to cultivate connection, and that requires time and presence and energy. But this is someone who wants way too much of your time or energy, and if you don't give it to them, then you start feeling bad because you feel like you're not giving them enough, even though you have given them enough. Does that make sense? Because I don't want to say, oh, every time someone wants your attention, they're an energy vampire. Or if, let's just say, I'll give you an example of a couple, guy and girl, and the guy is working a lot and he's traveling and he hasn't set aside time for date night, and the female is like, hey babe, we need to do a date night, we haven't done a date night. I'm really missing you, or I'm really looking forward to connecting with you because you've been on the go. That's not being an energy drain. So I just want to clarify, that is cultivating connection and creating space for each other to cultivate that connection. But someone who just is clingy, that's a good word, clingy, and wants all of your time and attention and is indirectly manipulative to make you feel bad. They won't just say oh, you don't have enough time for me usually. They'll slide it in there some way to where you're just like, I feel like a bad person for not making time for this person, or you feel bad not hanging out with a friend or going to lunch with a specific coworker. So it comes in so many different forms. So I just invite you to just kind of like think about the people in your life that make you feel bad if you don't spend time with them, because that's energy that is being drained from you. All right, number 3 is after being around them, you're drained, exhausted, or depleted. Even if you are thinking about them, just like thinking about the fact that you feel bad can drain your energy, but these are energetic cords. These are energetic cords and ties, or some people say hooks, energetic hooks. And I believe these hooks can cause leaky energy, and your energy is like literally being drained from your auric field. So there's 2 ways to look at this. You have, when you're around them, you feel drained. You feel drained because they're sucking up your energy. And even if you say, you know what, I'm going to honor myself and not go, but then you're thinking about it, feeling bad, that's still them draining your energy. So like you have people where you're like, okay, I don't feel like going, and I know she'll understand. Moving on, done. But if you are dwelling on it and you're like, oh, she's mad, or he's mad, or they're mad, whatever pronoun you want to use, they're mad, that is still draining your energy. Okay, number 4, I'm going to try to speed through these because I have a lot of notes. Number 4 is they are really critical, like excessively critical. So this is someone who's very judgmental, always judging someone, always has something negative to say about people, and they tend to be pessimistic. So we all have a lens in which we see the world, and our lens is usually from our experiences, things that have happened to us, our upbringing, our childhood, etc. So they tend to see the world through a negative lens, and the problems are always the other person's, or they just feel like people suck. And this is like a general people suck, because you know we all have days where we feel like people suck, but like this is just like their general view. And they may have a dark perspective. So someone who's in their shadow a lot, and we'll just leave that there. All right, so number 5 is they're always involved in drama. We know those kind of people. We know those kind of people, always involved in drama. There's always something with them. And on the surface, they're seeking peace, but they don't realize that most of the chaos is self-inflicted. And sometimes the inner turmoil is what is reflecting in their reality. So law of attraction, whatever we have going on inside is a direct reflection of what happens on the outside. So you ever known someone that's just like super dramatic and they can't understand why they're always in some drama? I know you know someone like that. So these are the people that are always in drama. Something's always wrong with them. Something's always going on, and they don't understand why, but it's like because of what they have going on. And so that always in some drama, always complaining, always something's always wrong, that is an energy drain. Okay, so these next 2 are kind of combined because it's like the either or, like both ends of the spectrum. So number 6 is they diminish your problems. If they're in a victim mindset, then they have to prove that their troubles are just as bad or worse than yours. So this is the person who, if you say, oh, I had an issue with my car, they're like, oh, well, my car, blah, 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 blah. Like they want to diminish your problems to put them back in the spotlight. Or now here's the thing, because we've talked about communication and we talked about how sometimes we try to relate, but we should listen and hold space without comparing it to our situation. Because relating, when you're like, you know, oh, my tire, I had to replace my tire, and they're like, oh, well, I had to replace my whole engine. Like, come on now, you know? So they want to make your problems not seem that big of a deal because they have bigger problems. Now, I will say this is something that I've done before. I don't want to say I've done before, but this is something that I've had to gain some awareness around, especially when I did my trauma training, because I used to say like trauma with a big T and trauma with a little t. So if you say trauma with a little t, you're actually diminishing the little t trauma. You're diminishing someone's trauma who, to their nervous system, it's not little. So saying little t trauma is actually diminishing it when their nervous system is like, this is trauma, period. So not comparing trauma to trauma, like don't compare traumas. So it's kind of just like that, like don't compare problems. It's the worst thing that you can do. So the other end of the spectrum, so this is number 7, is they one up you. So they can, on a negative aspect, wants to make their problem seem just as bad or worse than yours, and then one up you on the other end of the spectrum where they have to have the same or better, where it makes them feel good to be doing just as good or better than you. And if you're if you're not doing just as good, it's an ego boost for them to offer help or advice or to be your savior. So this is someone who, if you say, "Oh, I'm going on vacation to Miami," they're like, "Ooh, I'm going on vacation to Costa Rica." Like someone who has to one up you, and sometimes even just like pulling themselves up to your level or trying to go beyond your level. So doesn't this already sound exhausting? I'm exhausted just talking about this. I'm like, whew. But it's good. It's good to have that awareness. And I think that's why I got so into writing these out, because it helped me realize people's behavior. It also helped me realize some of like my behavior, because I want to show up the best version of myself. So I'm like, do I do this? Let me make sure I don't do this. And I mean, it really boils down to awareness. So we have 2 more. All right. So number 8 is they don't take accountability. And this is something that drives me absolutely insane. It's always the other person. If you address any of this, they'll flip it around on you. And one thing that I know is like, I am self-aware. Like I lean in. I'm like, let me look at my shit. I will call myself out. I know, like I own my stuff, and I talk about it often. I did the intimacy coaching. So intimacy as in like connection and not sex. I always have that disclaimer just in case you're listening to this for the first time. So I did intimacy coaching to really take a good look at myself and how I'm showing up in my relationships and my connections with people. So I take accountability for how I'm showing up. And one thing that I want to say about this is a lot of times when people are doing the work themselves, they don't always see their stuff because we don't like looking at our stuff. Like, we really don't. And so that's why having a coach and having friends or having like your family give you the feedback is not always good, because they're not always going to be honest with you. Some people will, but usually they won't. So hiring a coach that is really going to share with you, like, I see this, this, and this, is really powerful, because they may shine some light on things that you would not have seen yourself. And that's why I believe in coaching. I believe in therapy. And I have a few episodes coming up where we're talking about normalizing therapy, so it doesn't seem weird or taboo, like, oh, what's wrong with you? I think the people that are in therapy are the ones that are really facing their stuff. So let me not go down that rabbit hole and move on to number 9. Number 9 is you feel like you're walking on eggshells. This is another one of my pet peeves. Like, I think that we have to be us. We have to be us, and like our authentic. I know authentic is thrown around so many times, but really be our authentic self and not feel like we have to tone it down or even build it up. Like sometimes we feel like we have to step it up to hang around certain people, or we feel like we have to tone it down to hang around certain people. Just be you. I have a friend, shout out Jenna. I'm going to give her a shout out, but I have a friend, Jenna. it doesn't matter where we're going, what we're doing, what I have on, she shows up as her. And that's one thing that I love about her. So if I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wear a full sequence outfit or whatever, she shows up in what she feels comfortable in. And I have so much like respect for her because she never feels like she has to wear sequins because I'm wearing sequins. Like she just shows up in whatever she wants. And sometimes, it's a yellow dress. Sometimes it has like flamingos on it. Like whatever she wants to wear, she wears. And I have so much respect for that. And I think that just speaks to not walking on eggshells, not feeling like you have to be anyone other than who you are to be around certain people. And we need more of that. So the people that you feel like you can't be yourself around, those are the energy vampires. Those are the energy vampires. It is draining trying to be someone other than who you are. It will drain your energy. Whew, I'm getting tired just talking about it. Let me move on to number 10. Number 10 is they're always seeking validation indirectly, because it's not direct, because on the surface they seem confident and in control. So it's a indirect seeking of validation. They're tricky. Energy vampires are tricky. And, I think that validation, again, is something else that has a lot of layers. Like, I'm someone who, for a really long time, wanted validation from others. And everyone wants validation. Like, of course, I want validation. When you message me and say, oh, I love your podcast, it makes my day. It makes my day. Here is the fine line and the balance. If someone doesn't message me and say, hey, I love your podcast, I gain value from this, I'm not going down a downward spiral of like, oh, I suck and I'm not good enough and nobody loves me and they rather listen to other podcasts. That's where it becomes a problem. You know what I mean? So like validation is great. Acknowledgement is great. Gratitude is great. Words of affirmation is great. But when you don't receive it, you're not having a meltdown or throwing a temper tantrum. Okay? So those were 10 ways that you can spot an energy vampire. And I'm sure that you know someone in your life that has done a few, if not all of these. So like I said, I do think it's all about balance. There's a light and a dark of everything. And if you go too far in one end, it can cause problems. And if I'm being really honest, I don't think that energy vampires are bad people. We all have toxic patterns. But the purpose of inner work is to pay attention to our stuff, to be aware of our stuff, to be aware of our thought patterns, which are toxic and which are serving us, and then consciously choose to release the things that are no longer serving us, release the pre-programming, release the toxic thought patterns, release the insecurities and the doubt and the blocks and all of the things that are standing in our way of being the best version of ourselves. So here's the thing. It's not like people are not always aware of the patterns. Sometimes it's totally subconscious, but usually it's an attempt to meet a need or is the desire to feel important or valued. They want to be validated, basically. So a lot of times this behavior isn't meant to be malicious. It really isn't. It's that they want attention. They want to feel valued. They want to feel loved and seen, but they don't know how to do it in a healthy manner. They're not aware that they're doing it in a manner that's causing chaos and toxicity. So a lot of times they inherited the character traits or thought patterns, and it could be learned helplessness. So learned helplessness is when someone needs reassurance on a regular basis. So this is that person that needs constant validation from others, that external validation, because they don't have it within. So usually people are not aware of this. And if they are aware of it and they're still doing it, they're probably a sociopath, and just stay away from them. If I'm being honest, if they're aware and they're like, I know, but I'm going to do it anyway, they're a sociopath. So most people are not aware of it. Is your intuition getting stronger? and it's freaking you out a little bit? Are you seeing repeating numbers everywhere and you don't know what it means? Do you feel or hear things, but you don't know how to make sense of it? Do you know the law of attraction is real and feel shame when you have a negative feeling? Abundant and Aligned Society is a support and accountability group for those beginning their spiritual or healing journey and are just waking up to their powers and clear abilities. Go to Niajae.com for more information on this membership that offers sound therapy recordings, guided meditations, journal exercises, and more to help you avoid the pitfalls and maintain alignment as you raise your level of consciousness. Connect with me if you are ready to gain clarity and start vibrating higher. All right, so we've gone over the 10 ways to spot an energy vampire, and you definitely want to spot them because energy is contagious. You want to surround yourself with people that are supportive and empowering and nurturing and make you feel loved and fabulous. So let's say you have an energy vampire in your life and you don't know what to do. What do you do? What do you do? All right, so I have 6 ways to deal with energy vampires in your life. Number 1 is distance yourself. If you can, just distance yourself. Simple as that. Distance yourself. Now, some people you can cut off completely and just like not have them in your life and do so without feeling guilty. But then you have some people that you can't cut ties with. Like you have your family, you have coworkers, you have bosses if you want to keep your job, or business partners that you may be legally bound to. So you have situations where you can't just cut ties. So what do you do then? So number 1 is distance yourself. If you can't completely distance yourself, number 2 is set healthy boundaries. We talk about healthy boundaries all the time because they are so important in every type of relationship, healthy boundaries. Number 3 is shield your energy. Shield your energy in the morning when you wake up, before you interact with people, and cleanse your energy at night. So sound baths are a really great way to do so. It just really helps balance your chakras and clean your energy field. So if you ever see me go around with like my handheld, I carry bowls with me all the time these days because, I want to make sure that people have good energy. Energy is contagious. And oh my goodness, energetic hygiene. So I love that term. Just like you shower every day, hopefully, you want to cleanse your energy every day as well. Or I shouldn't say cleanse because it's not like most people can do a sound bath every day, but you want to be aware of your energy. So really taking inventory of where your baseline resonance is and how you're feeling. So number 4 is try fully accepting them, but don't enable their behavior. That's important. So you can fully accept that, okay, I know this person needs validation. I know this person wants to feel seen and heard, but there's a way that you can fully accept them without enabling them. So don't just say okay, this behavior is okay, and I'm just gonna feed into their bull crap. I'm not saying that, but having compassion. Sometimes when you can have compassion for someone, it shifts how you perceive them. And so having compassion and empathy without enabling. I don't believe in enabling at all. So having that healthy boundary, it really goes back to boundaries, having the compassion and understanding that, okay, they're going to need a little more attention, and really checking into yourself to see do I have this extra energy to give? And if you don't, it's okay. Being able to honor that I don't have the energy for this today. And that is okay to say. And I say it all the time. Sometimes I have a lot of energy. Sometimes I have a ton of energy to deal with people and their stuff, and sometimes I just don't. So checking into wherever I am feeling to know how much energy I have to give to people that I know require more energy. Number 5 is stand your ground. Standing your ground and not giving into their manipulation. So if you have someone that makes you feel bad for not spending time with them or not doing what they want you to do, stand your ground and own how you feel, because manipulative people sometimes will not let it go. But just stand your ground and be like, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this conversation. I'm sorry, I can't do this with you right now, however you want to phrase it, that feels right to you, but just standing your ground. And I think that's really, really, really important. So, knowing the difference between venting and dumping. So, this is part of standing your ground. Like, let's say you have a friend that always wants to vent to you. Knowing the difference between, I'm going to say healthy venting. Healthy venting is someone, when they're taking accountability for themselves, they're self-aware, they understand how they contributed to the problem, and their venting is solution orientated. It's solution. I mix those two words up. Solution or resolution orientated. That's what I meant. So when they have a solution and it's not just like, like they're on their soapbox, like ranting and raving. So the dumping is where it's a rant that doesn't make sense. It doesn't serve a purpose, and it's self-inflicted drama. So again, knowing the difference between, like, I'm just going to say healthy venting. So we have things in life that frustrate us, period. But when someone's not taking responsibility for their part of it and they are not being solution orientated, that is more dumping. They're emotionally dumping on you when it doesn't make sense, it doesn't serve a purpose, and usually is self-inflicted. So that's the self-inflicted drama that someone's always in. Something's always wrong, something's always going on. So when they are complaining, it can be emotionally dumping on someone, and that will drain your energy. So knowing the difference and standing your ground. So when you stand your ground, you can say, hey, I know that you are having a hard time, but I really need to focus on X, Y, and Z. A normal person will be like, oh, no, I understand. Like, I get it because, life, like, we are busy. But someone who is an energy vampire will feel like, oh, you never have time for me and I have to deal with everything myself, and like be melodramatic about it. We know those people, right? Okay, so let me move on. Number 6 is exercise your right to say no. It's okay to say no without feeling bad or guilty. So this basically ties into standing your ground and setting healthy boundaries, which is how you deal with energy vampires. Standing your ground, setting healthy boundaries, being okay with saying no. If you need to not make a plan with someone or even cancel a plan, like, we have the right to cancel a plan. There's a lot of times where we feel overwhelmed. Overwhelm is an imbalance in your chakra, by the way, but that's a whole nother story. When we feel overwhelmed, but we feel obligated to keep a lunch date or whatever we said yes to, that is a form of people pleasing, which is an imbalance in your solar plexus. So making sure that you can say no, which is partially throat chakra, so being willing to say no without having the guilt and shame, which sits in your solar plexus. So it's all combined, it's all connected, I should say. So being willing to stand up for yourself, set your healthy boundaries, and stick to them without feeling bad. That is part of honoring yourself. We can't please everyone. In a perfect world, we could, but we can't please everyone. So making sure that you're pleasing yourself, and I know that's hard for a lot of people, especially parents, especially business owners. We try to do all the things and we try to take care of everyone. But like I always say, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of you first. You have to make sure that your cup is full, preferably overflowing, so you can give from your overflow. When your cup is overflowing, you have more to give to others without depleting yourself. And that is what an energy vampire will do. Will deplete your cup and give no fucks. Excuse my language, but it's true. They will deplete your cup and not care or not even notice, because sometimes it's totally subconscious and they don't realize their behavior. So let's just say you listen to this and you're like, I think I've done a couple of these things, because I've done a couple of them, like unintentionally, until I went down this rabbit hole of what are, signs of an energy vampire. Like, I feel like we've all done something on this list. So what if you're like, I've done some of this. What do you do? So like, what if you are the energy vampire? no judgment. Let me just say, no judgment, because like I said, this is all about self-awareness. So we can be aware of our toxic patterns. We all have toxic patterns. I can give you a list of my toxic patterns. We all have toxic patterns, but it's being aware of it and making the conscious decision to work on it and show up the best version of ourselves. So if you think you have some energy vampire tendencies, I have 5 questions that I want you to answer for yourself. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to share it with me or anyone else. This is for you to sit with it and just check in. So number 1 is, do I guilt trip people into doing things? Do I guilt trip people into doing things? And I want you to ask yourself this more than one time, because there's always going to be a surface layer, because sometimes we don't like to admit stuff to ourselves. So really sit with this in a vulnerable place to be really, really honest with yourself. Number 2 is, am I understanding, or do I feel not good enough when someone doesn't do or react the way I want them to? Let me say that again. Am I understanding, or do I feel not good enough when someone doesn't do or react the way I want them to? Number 3 is, do I want empathy or pity from people? Do I want empathy or pity from people? Now, this one I think is very layered. There's a lot of people that on the surface, they have a hard shell. And so on the surface, I don't need anyone's whatever. I don't need anyone's compliment. I don't need anyone's help. But deep down inside, they do. So this one is one you got to kind of crack through that layer surface to really get to the truth. Do I want empathy or pity from people? Number 4, do I often feel helpless or powerless? Whew, this one is so powerful. Really sit in this. Do I often feel helpless or powerless? Now, again, there's so many layers to this, because life kicks your ass at times. Life has kicked my ass plenty of times. And so a challenge here or there is not what I'm referring to, but a consistent feeling of helplessness, a consistent feeling of powerlessness. Really sit with that. This is a really powerful question. Number 5 is, do I constantly seek validation or reassurance from others? Do I constantly seek validation or reassurance from others? This is one that I will share I had to work on. So I have a really critical mom. She is hardcore. She doesn't give out compliments often. Like, she never told me, good job, you're doing great. She always had some type of criticism to say, you could have done better. You could have done better. You could have done more. So this was something that I had to do a lot of inner work on, to not need that external validation, because I was always looking for someone to say, you're doing great, because I didn't get that as a child. So I had to do a lot of work, and I tied so much of my self-worth to my accomplishments, especially in business. I mean, I've done music and like all different types of things, and I tied so much of my self-worth to that because I was always looking for that external validation. So I had to really go and do the inner work to have that inner validation, that inner self-acceptance, that inner self-worth, where I'm not tying it or attaching it to anything externally. Woo! So powerful, you guys, so powerful. So I just want to remind you, if you do say yes to any of these questions, you're not a bad person, because we all have layers of this. We all have toxic things we have to work through because of our childhoods, because of challenges or traumas we may have experienced. So it's not saying you're bad. Not saying you're bad. It literally is an imbalance in your chakras that are pulling energy from someone else rather than doing the inner work to balance the energy on your own. So that's what it's doing. And if you have awareness around it, you can adjust accordingly. You can do your chakra work. And I think that that's really what it's about, is us doing the work. Everyone has stuff. We all have stuff. Doing the work, so we're showing up our best, making the conscious decision, I'm not going to be this way because I want to be the best version of myself. You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself. And you owe it to yourself to protect your energy so other people who are not doing the work are not draining your energy. So just some ways whether it's you or whether it's someone in your life that is open to having this conversation, some ways that you can work on this is one, self-awareness. That's so important. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously into mindfulness, self-awareness, self-development, that type of thing. Doing the inner work, actually doing the inner work and not going through the motions. I know so many people that are going through the motions, but they're not actually doing the work and leaning into the uncomfortable parts that you really don't want to face. And that's why I say having a coach, a mentor, healer, or a therapist is good, because they're going to help you. They're going to help guide you through those uncomfortable places that you probably won't go on your own. And you want to focus on the solar plexus and heart chakra. So solar plexus is self-worth, confidence, that validation piece, that personal power. If you feel powerlessness or if you feel helpless, that's all in your solar plexus. It helps you tap into your personal power. So solar plexus work is so important for anyone who experiences any of these things. And then heart chakra, so really tapping into self-love, really tapping into self-acceptance, really tapping into compassion. So whether you're on either end, where you have a energy vampire in your life, or you may have some energy vampire tendencies, that compassion is going to help. The compassion for yourself or compassion for others, to understand, that honestly, we're all out here doing the best that we can. And even if you absolutely unconditionally love this person, you still have to love yourself and protect your energy. So finding that compassion for them and for yourself to set that healthy boundary. I want to wrap up by saying, the more you love and accept yourself, the less you need it from others. We all need love, but we don't need toxic patterns to achieve that love. Let me say that again. We all need love, but we don't need toxic patterns to achieve that love. The more you love and accept yourself, the less you need it from others. The more you love and accept yourself, the more you can love and accept others. And the more you love and accept yourself, the more others are going to love and accept you. So it all boils down to you loving and accepting yourself. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening and sticking with me through that intense topic. So if you found value in this and you want more clarity and direction in balancing your chakras and really operating from a place of alignment, so that's finding that inner peace, that's finding that self-acceptance, using the chakra system, using sound therapy, definitely go to niajae.com/society to find out more about Abundant and Aligned Society. It is my membership that is amazing, because obviously I love talking about chakras, and I have developed this really beautiful roadmap to help you learn about the chakras, identify where your chakras are, and learn how to maintain them on your own. So I'm teaching you the tools, so no matter what life throws at you, you can get back to a place of alignment and maintain it effortlessly. All right, so if you want more information about that, go to niajae.com/society. Thank you so much. I love this episode, and if you loved it too, I would absolutely love to hear from you. So definitely reach out to me. Fastest way to reach me is on Instagram @Niajae. And until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.